All right, guys, so last week we started looking at that in transit video of this guy kind of going through Central America and looking at all these really cool things. Okay, well, that's going to be an introduction to what we talk about today, and that is going to be Latin American culture. Okay, when we talk about Latin America, we're talking about Central America and South America and Mexico. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's get a review on what culture is. Okay, remember, culture can be religion, it can be talking about food, art, celebrations, jokes, manners, clothes and how they dress, work schedules, language. All of these things make up culture. Okay, so what does this image tell us about Latin American culture? Okay, first off, we see a ton of different flags, and those flags are going to be things that are going to influence Latin American culture. Okay, so what comes to mind when we think about Latin American culture? Quite a few things are going to come to mind. Okay, we have different bright colors, we have mariachi bands, pottery, all different kinds of foods, and then a ton of those ruins, right? Remember, we talked about how the Aztecs and the Mayans and the Incas all influenced the way that Latin America is today. Okay, so Latin America has a very unique culture. And so we're going to talk about some of the cultural characteristics of people who live in Latin America and some of the things that they participate in. Okay, so the background. Think about how we've talked about earlier exploration. Okay, what were those three main reasons for exploration? Okay, think back to what we've talked about. I'll give you a hint. They all start with G, and there's three of them. Okay, one of them is going to be God, one of them is going to be gold, and the other one is going to be glory. So our three G's, those are going to be the big reasons for people to explore. Okay, so languages in Latin America. Okay, most Latin American countries are going to speak Spanish because Spain built an empire in most Latin American countries. So we can see all that yellow that has been colonized by Spain. Okay, you can see Spain on that map. It's across from the Atlantic Ocean. And we see all of these places. We even see that Florida and all the way up into the United States is going to be colonized by Spain, which we'll talk more about when you guys get into 8th grade. Okay, but we're going to see Spanish a lot because of Spain colonizing most of these Latin American countries. Okay, so continuing on, we're also going to see Portuguese that's spoken in Brazil because Portugal is going to build an empire in this area. So we see Portugal, again, it's kind of over by Spain a little bit, but it's across the Atlantic Ocean. And we see those blue spots that are going to be places that are colonized by Portugal. Okay, so it makes sense that they speak Portuguese, just like when Spain colonized, they're going to speak Spanish. Okay, so fun fact, the name Latin America comes from the fact that Spanish, Portuguese, and French all come from the Latin language. And these languages are going to be called the Romance languages because they all come from out of date, like old, Latin dialects, which are like different languages, spoken in areas of Europe called the Roman Empire. Okay, so all of these languages are going to come from Rome, or like Roman, the Roman Empire. And so Latin America is going to be made up of Spanish, Portuguese, and French, which is all come from the Latin language, so it's called Latin America. Okay, now, although Latin America has the same basic language and religion, its culture is going to be very diverse. Okay, European colonization not only brought changes to in language and religion to Latin America, it also is going to influence other aspects of culture. Now, what is this called? You have to think about what the name of this is, where things start to blend together, and we see a combination of cultures. Okay, this is going to be called cultural diffusion. Remember, that's a vocab word, and it's very important that you understand that the combination of these cultures is going to be like cultural diffusion. remember, in science, diffusion is like the spreading of things. Well, it's the same thing in history. It's just culture instead of, putting food dye in water, that kind of thing. Okay, so during European exploration and colonization, European countries that conquered other regions often took over native language and religion of that region. Okay, this is going to be true for Latin American also. We kind of have talked about this when we talked about how Spain is going to kind of destroy our Aztecs that we talked about last week. It's going to be the same in Latin America, which is, where the Aztecs were going. Okay, so the people and the culture of Latin America are an interesting blend of indigenous, which remember means native, but it doesn't mean African American, or not African American, Native American. It just means that you are native to that region. Okay, so indigenous people and the countries that established colonies there. Okay, once European settlers in Latin America, ethnic groups began to blend together. So remember, ethnic groups are going to be these different groups of people that share common characteristics such as language, physical appearance, customs, and traditions. So we're going to start seeing those things blend together, which again is called cultural diffusion. Okay, but let's go ahead and start looking at some diversity in Latin America. Okay, so Latin America's culture is going to be very diverse. Each region has its own history, language, customs, beliefs, food, music, and a ton of other things. Okay, we're going to go into individual countries soon, but for right now, this is what I want you to know. Okay, Latin America is also very diverse in races. They're going to have Europeans, Africans, Native Americans, and those are going to be their biggest groups. Okay, members of these groups are also going to intermarry and are going to develop unique cultures over time. And we'll talk about the names of those where they intermarry and have children in just a second. Okay, so Native Americans. Okay, Europeans are going to begin colonizing the Americas in like the 1500s. Okay, they're going to force the natives to work on plantations and mines, which we've talked about a little bit. And many native populations are going to be completely wiped out by European weapons and diseases. Remember, this is going to be a negative impact on our Native Americans and the indigenous people of Latin America. Okay, now a lot of people in Venezuela are going to be called mestizos, which are people that have ancestors that were both European and Native American. So there's that cultural diffusion, that mixing of races, and for Native Americans and Europeans, they're going to be called mestizos. Okay, now in terms of Africans, we're going to have Europeans that are going to bring Africans to the New World and force them as slaves. That's going to be part of the Columbian Exchange, which we'll talk more about later. And descendants of these people, so people that mingle together, are still going to be alive today. The name of them are going to be mulattoes, and they are people that are mixed between Black and European descent. Okay, now religion in Latin America. Okay, Latin America's dominant religion is going to be Roman Catholicism, so being Catholic, and over 90% of the people in that region are going to claim to be Catholic. Catholic values and attitudes are part of the life in almost every country in Latin America. Okay, but practices of Native Americans and Africans are also going to blend with Christian beliefs. Remember, cultural diffusion. So an example of that is going to be the Day of the Dead, which is Dia de los Muertos. And it's a blend of Native American beliefs about the afterlife with Christian beliefs. Okay, so we're going to watch just a quick video over this real quick, and then we'll move on.
Indigenous people of Mexico believe that souls are eternal. For them, the souls of the dead may cross back and forth between this world and the next. On the Day of the Dead, which every year is celebrated on November 1st and 2nd, it is believed that these souls come to visit their living relatives. Special offerings are made on this day, to welcome these souls. Michoacan is located at the center of Mexico, approximately 4 hours' drive northwest from Mexico City. The state has impressive mountains, lush landscapes, fertile valleys, and a large lake at its center called Pátzcuaro. Pátzcuaro is also the name of the region surrounding the lake and the name of its largest town. The greater part of the Pátzcuaro Lake population are descendants of the Purépecha tribe. The vast Purépecha Empire, which thrived from 1100 AD till 1530 AD, stood strong against the powerful Aztecs and maintained its independence. Both kingdoms lost their strength with the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century. Pre-Hispanic, Catholic, and colonial influences are evident in the local folklore. They can also be seen in the artwork decorating churches, and even in images of Jesus, which appear to have either European or indigenous features. The influences are also evident in the language. A majority speaking Spanish, but in some villages, such as Santa Fe de la Laguna, the old Purépecha language is still used. The same goes for the celebrations, such as the Day of the Dead, or, as the indigenous call it here, the Night of the Dead. In big cities, the way people celebrate is completely different than in small villages, where the majority of the population is indigenous. This festival honoring the dead is also a festival that treasures family and community life. It is an honest and modest tradition that looks very much inward into one's soul and spirit. But as the years pass, it becomes more and more rare to witness a communal experience like the Day of the Dead in Michoacan. The family of the deceased opens their doors to neighbors, the extended family, and whoever else happens to be around and wants to come in.
Okay, so that was kind of an interesting thing about Dia de los Muertos. And actually, so Sunday and Monday, which is today, is going to be actually when they are celebrating it. So I thought it would be really cool to talk about this. Okay, so social classes in Spanish colonies. Okay, just like we have social classes now, they're going to have them there. Okay, so we have peninsulars, which are Spanish born in Spain, or Spaniards born in Spain. They're going to be very, very top. Okay, there's going to be very little of them because they're just kind of rare. Okay, then we have criollos, which are descendants of the peninsulars, which are Spaniards born in Spain as well. And then we have the mestizos, which are, remember, those are going to be our Europeans and our Indians. Then we have mulattoes, which are our Europeans and Africans. Then we have regular Native American Indians. Then we have African slaves. Okay, so this is going to be their social hierarchy, okay? Now, something else that is going to be super big in Latin America is going to be calypso music. Okay, so calypso music is a mixture of French and West African influences, and this is something that you really need to know. Okay, so we're going to watch this clip real quick, and then these notes will be done. Okay, so you guys really need to know that calypso music is going to be that mixture of French and West African influences in Latin America. Okay, these things are going to become very popular, and this is just something you need to know. Okay, so last thing. This is just something I want you to think about. Okay, describe how European settlers are going to influence the language and culture of Latin America. How did all of these things together influence how Latin America is? Okay, so I just want you guys to think about these on your own. Okay, I know this was a long set of notes, but go back, make sure you have everything written down, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.